The wind carried the smell of wet leaves and old smoke as Vivienne Marlowe walked the road home. Her boots were thin. The road was long. The sun was already low behind the bare trees, and her breath came out in small white clouds that faded before she could see them clearly. She held her shawl close around her thin shoulders. It was made of soft grey wool, the last good thing her mother had made before she died. The edges were worn. A small hole near the fringe had been mended with careful stitches. Vivienne had worn it every winter for 6 years. It smelled faintly of lavender and cedar wood from the small trunk where she kept it in summer. She was returning from the market in the next village. She had a small basket over her arm with a loaf of brown bread, a paper packet of tea, and 3 apples. It was all her coins could buy that week. Her father had been dead for 2 years. Her aunt kept the cottage now, and her aunt kept the money too. Vivienne had learned not to ask. The road bent between 2 low stone walls covered in dry moss. Beyond the walls, empty fields stretched away toward hills that were the color of old bruises in the fading light. She heard a crow somewhere, then nothing. Only the sound of her own boots on the frozen mud. She was thinking about the fire she would have to build when she reached home, and whether her aunt had used the last of the good wood when she saw him. At first she thought it was a pile of rags, a heap of dark cloth beside the low wall where the ditch dropped away into brown water. She almost walked past it. Then she saw the boot. Then she saw the hand. Vivienne stopped. Her heart gave one hard beat and then went quiet. She stepped closer. The hand was pale and still. The wrist was thin. A man lay curled on his side in the wet grass, his face turned toward the wall. His coat was fine but stained. His hair was dark and stuck to his brow. His lips were the wrong color, a soft grey blue that made her stomach twist. She knelt beside him. The cold from the ground came up through her skirt at once, sharp as a bite. She set her basket down. She reached out and touched his shoulder. He did not move. "Sir?" she said. Her voice sounded small in the empty road. "Sir, can you hear me?" He made a sound. It was not a word. It was a breath that had a shape. His eyelashes moved a little against his cheek. She leaned closer. He smelled of rain and of something faintly bitter like old tea. Underneath that, the smell of a man who had been walking a long time. His breath, when it came, was slow and shallow. She could feel the cold coming off his body like a second wind. She looked up and down the road. Empty, the village was still nearly a mile away in one direction, and her aunt's cottage was farther still in the other. The sky was already the color of wet iron. It would be dark in half an hour. She thought about running for help. But he was so cold. He was so cold that she was afraid he would be gone by the time she came back. She had seen a lamb die of the cold once when she was a girl. She remembered how quickly it had happened. One moment there was breath. The next moment there was only stillness. Vivienne looked down at her shawl. It was the last thing her mother had made her. It was warmer than her coat. It was almost the only warm thing she owned. She did not think about it for very long. She pulled the shawl from her shoulders. The cold hit her back and her arms at once, and she gasped a little at how sharp it was. She folded the shawl around the stranger's chest and shoulders, tucking the edges under his neck. She lifted his head as gently as she could and slid the fringe beneath it, so that his cheek rested on the wool instead of the wet grass. His skin was so cold that her fingers stung. "There," she whispered. "There, sir, you keep it. You keep it now." He made another small sound. His eyes opened just a little. They were dark, dark grey, and they did not seem to see her. Then they closed again. She rubbed his hands between hers. His fingers were long and thin, and one of them had a scar across the knuckle. His palms felt like stones from a winter stream. She rubbed until she could feel a faint warmth returning under the skin. She spoke to him the whole time. She did not know what she said. She thought later it was probably nonsense, the sort of thing a mother says to a fevered child. She could not carry him. He was much taller than she was, and she was thin from a hard year. But she could not leave him. Then she heard wheels. A cart came around the bend, pulled by a slow old horse. The driver was a farmer she knew from the village, a man named Old Torren. His face was red from the cold. He pulled the horse up when he saw her. "Miss Marlowe," he called. "What are you about, girl?" "A man," she said. Her voice shook. She had not noticed the tears on her cheeks. "There is a man here. He is nearly gone. Please." Old Torrin climbed down. He was a slow man, but he was not a stupid one. He looked at the stranger and pressed his ear to the man's chest. He grunted. "Still there," he said. Just. They lifted him together into the back of the cart. He weighed less than Vivienne had feared. She climbed up beside him. Old Torrin clicked his tongue, and the old horse began to walk. "Where do we take him?" Vivienne asked. Old Torrin scratched under his hat. "The Boar's Head might have a room, but they'll want coin." "My aunt's cottage is closer," Vivienne said. "We can take him there." Old Torrin gave her a long look. "Your aunt won't like that." "No," Vivienne said. "She will not." They said nothing more. The cart rattled along the road, and Vivienne sat beside the stranger and held her shawl in place around him. The cold sank deeper into her back and her arms, but she did not think about it much. She watched his face instead. She watched the small movement of his chest under the wool. She counted his breaths. She was afraid that if she stopped counting, they would stop. Her aunt did not like it. That was the smallest way to put it. Aunt Peveril stood in the doorway of the cottage with her arms folded and her mouth pressed into a thin line. She was a tall woman with iron grey hair pulled back so tightly that it made her look surprised. She was not surprised. She was angry. "You brought a strange man into my house," she said. "He would have died on the road," Vivienne said. "Then he should have died on the road," Aunt Peveril said. "That is not our problem. We have no room, we have no food, and we do not know who he is. He might be a thief, he might be worse." Old Torrin cleared his throat. He had helped carry the stranger to the small back room where Vivienne slept. Now he stood in the kitchen looking uncomfortable. "The man's clothes are fine, Mrs., under the dirt. That coat is good wool. Fine clothes can be stolen," Aunt Peveril said. She turned back to Vivienne. "You will take him to the inn in the morning. You hear me, girl? Or you will take him to the churchyard, if he cannot be moved." She said the last part in a hard, flat voice, as if she did not care which. Then she turned and walked back into the front room, where her small fire burned. She did not offer old Torrin a cup of anything for his trouble. Vivienne walked old Torrin to the door. She had no coins to give him. She had only her thanks. "You are a good man," she said. He shook his head. "I am an old man. It is not the same." He looked at her for a moment. His eyes were kind, in a tired way. "Your ma would be proud of you tonight, Miss Marlowe." He was gone before she could answer. She went back to the small back room. It was not much bigger than a closet. There was a narrow bed, a small wooden chair, a shelf with 3 books on it, and a low window with a chipped pane. The stranger lay on her bed, still wrapped in her shawl, still white and grey and terribly still. She built up the small hearth in the corner as high as she dared. The wood was thin and did not last long. She heated water in a pan and made a weak broth from a bit of dried beef she had been saving. She spooned it between his lips a drop at a time. Most of it ran down his chin. Some of it went down his throat. She wiped his face with a clean cloth. Then she sat in the wooden chair beside the bed, and she watched him. Hours passed. The wind rose outside and pushed at the window. The candle on the shelf burned down and she lit another. Her aunt's voice came once through the wall, sharp and short, complaining of noise. Then it went silent. Her aunt was asleep. The stranger did not wake. But his breathing was steadier now. His lips had lost the terrible grey-blue color. His hands, when she touched them, were only cool. Not the cold of a dead thing. The cold of a living body that had come close to dying and was climbing slowly back. She rested her head on the edge of the bed. She meant only to close her eyes for a moment. She fell asleep sitting up. One hand curled on the corner of her shawl where it covered his chest. She woke because someone was looking at her. The light through the window was grey. Early morning. The candle was out. The fire in the small hearth was almost gone, and the stranger was awake. His head was turned toward her on the pillow. His eyes were dark, dark grey, and they were clear now. He was watching her. He did not move when she sat up sharply. He only kept watching her, with the tired, patient look of a man who had been awake for some time and had chosen not to disturb her. "Oh," she said. She pushed the hair back from her face. "You are awake." "Yes." His voice was rough, like a door that had not been opened in a long time. She reached for the pan of water she had kept warm through the night. She dipped a cup and held it to his lips. He drank slowly. Some of it ran down the side of his mouth. She wiped it with the cloth. He watched her the whole time. "Where am I?" he asked. "Barrowford," she said, "a village in the North Country. You were on the road outside of it. Do you remember?" He closed his eyes. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, "I remember walking. I remember the cold. I do not remember stopping." "You had stopped when I found you," Vivienne said. "You were on the ground. You were nearly gone." "How long?" "You have been here since yesterday evening. It is morning now." He opened his eyes again. He looked at the shawl folded across his chest. He touched the edge of it with his thin fingers. He turned the wool between his fingertips as if he were reading something in the weave. "This is yours," he said. "Yes, you wrapped me in it." Yes, he did not say thank you. He looked at her instead, with those dark grey eyes, and she felt as if he had said thank you in a way that most men could not. Something moved in his face that was not a smile, but might have been the memory of one. "What is your name?" he asked. "Vivienne Marlowe." Marlowe, he turned the name over in his mouth as if tasting it. "That is a good name." "And yours, sir?" There was a small pause, almost not there. If she had not been watching his face so closely, she would not have seen it. "Callum," he said. "Callum Ash." "Mr. Ash." "Callum will do." "That is not proper," she said. "I do not know you, sir." He did smile then. Only a little. Only at one corner of his mouth. "You know me better than most people do, Miss Marlowe. You have seen my face when I could not choose what it did." She did not know what to say to that. She looked down at her hands. Her fingers were rough from the cold. Her nails were short. "I have some broth," she said. "I can heat it." "Please." She rose and left the room. In the kitchen, her aunt was already at the table with a cup of tea and a face like winter. Aunt Peveril looked up sharply. "He is awake? Yes, then he can go." "He can barely lift his head, Aunt. He can go to the inn." "He can go anywhere. He is not staying under this roof." "I will speak to him about it," Vivienne said quietly. She heated the broth. She did not argue. She had learned long ago that arguing with Aunt Peveril was like arguing with a stone wall. The stone wall did not change. Only the person who argued grew tired. She carried the bowl back to the small room. Callum Ashy was sitting up a little now, propped against the pillow. The shawl had fallen to his lap. He looked less like a dying man. He looked like a tired man. A tired man with a strong jaw and dark hair that curled at the ends, and eyes that watched everything. She fed him the broth. He was too weak to hold the spoon steady. He did not seem embarrassed by this. He accepted it the way a man accepts weather. "Your aunt is not pleased," he said between spoonfuls. "No, she spoke last night. I heard her, before I could make sense of it. Her voice carries. Yes, she said I might be a thief. She says that about most people." The corner of his mouth moved again. A wise woman. Vivienne almost laughed. She stopped herself. It felt too strange to laugh in that small room with a strange man in her bed. "I will take you to the Boar's Head in the village today," she said. "If you can walk a little. It is not far. They have rooms there. You can send word to your people." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Yes, that would be best." "Do you have people?" she asked. "I mean someone I can write to for you. If you cannot write yourself." "I have people," he said. "But I do not want them yet." She looked at him. "Sir?" "Callum, Mr. Ash. If you are unwell, they should know." "I am unwell," he said, "but I will mend. And there are things I would rather sort out before word reaches anyone. Do you understand me, Miss Marlowe?" She did not. But she nodded, because his eyes were tired and she did not want to press. "Then we will go to the inn," she said, "and you will rest, and you will tell me what you need when you are ready." "You are a strange girl," he said softly. "I am not a girl. I am 24. That is a girl, in most places. Not in this one." He looked at her for a long moment. She felt the look go through her like a hand passed slowly over a piece of cloth. She looked away first. They went to the inn that afternoon. Old Torin came back with his cart, having heard, somehow, that he would be needed. Vivienne suspected her aunt had walked to the village early and made it known she wanted the stranger out. It did not matter. The result was the same. Calamachi could stand, but only just. He could not walk far. He leaned on Vivienne's shoulder on one side and on old Torin's on the other, and they got him into the cart. Vivienne climbed up beside him again. Aunt Peveril watched from the doorway with her arms folded and did not wave. The Boar's Head was a low stone building with a slate roof and a sign that creaked in the wind. The innkeeper was a heavy man with a red face and small, kind eyes. His name was Master Hebbert. He came out at once when he saw them. "What is this, then?" "A traveller," Vivienne said. "He fell ill on the road. He needs a room and a fire." Master Hebbert looked at Calamache. His eyes went down the fine wool coat and the mud on the boots. He looked longer than most innkeepers might. Then he looked at Vivienne, and his face softened. "We have a room upstairs," he said. "Warm chimney runs behind the wall. 2 shillings a night, with bread and broth and small beer. He can pay," Vivienne said. She was guessing, but the coat was fine, and no man carried a coat like that without something in his purse. Master Hebbert nodded slowly. Between them all, they got Calamachi up the narrow stairs and into the room. The fire was already lit. The bed was clean and had a red wool blanket over it. Vivienne helped him out of his boots. She unfolded her shawl and laid it over him again, over the red blanket. As if she could not stop herself. "You keep this," she said, "for now, until you are strong. Then I will fetch it back." He looked at the shawl. He looked at her. "Miss Marlowe. Yes, you should have a shawl too. I have my coat. Your coat is thin. I know how thin it is, sir. You do not need to tell me." He did not smile this time. His face went a little grave. "I will not forget this. What you did on the road. Please do forget it," she said. She surprised herself with how firm her voice was. It was ordinary. Anyone would have done the same. "No," he said. "No one would have. Then that says more about them than about me." She left the room before he could answer. She said goodbye to Master Hebbert in the yard and walked home in the cold with her arms wrapped tight across her body. The wind cut through her thin coat and made her teeth ache. She did not cry. She did not know why she wanted to. 3 days passed. She did not go to the inn. She had work at the cottage, mending, washing, the small tasks that never ended. Her aunt watched her more closely than usual, as if she expected Vivienne to run away. Once, Vivienne caught her aunt looking at her with a strange expression, half suspicion and half something else, and she did not know what to make of it. On the 4th day, Master Hebbert's boy came to the door with a note. Vivienne opened it in the kitchen. Aunt Peveril watched from the corner. The handwriting was strong and slanted. It said only, "Miss Marlowe. I would be grateful if you called at the inn today. I am well enough to speak. C.A." She folded the note. She looked up. "The gentleman at the inn asks if I might visit." "For what?" her aunt said. "To speak, he says." Her aunt's mouth got thinner. "He wants something. Men like that always want something. Perhaps he wants to return my shawl. Then he can send it." "Aunt," Vivienne said quietly, "I saved his life. It costs me nothing to walk to the inn." Aunt Peveril looked at her for a long moment. Then she gave a short, sharp nod that was not permission, but was also not a refusal. Vivienne put on her coat. She walked to the village. The sky was clearer today. The bare branches made black patterns against a cold, pale blue. Her breath was still visible, but the air did not bite so hard. Master Hebbert met her in the yard. His face was strange. He looked as if he wanted to say something and was choosing not to. "He is upstairs, Miss Marlowe. He is waiting." "How is he?" "Better, much better. Strong enough to be a nuisance." He almost smiled. Then the almost smile went away. "Miss Marlowe, there are things I should perhaps say." "Then say them, Master Hebbert." He opened his mouth. He closed it again. "No," he said, "it is not my place. Go up." She went up the narrow stairs. The room at the end of the hall had its door slightly open. She could see firelight moving on the floor. She knocked. His voice said, "Come in." He was sitting in the chair by the fire, not lying in the bed. He was dressed in his own clothes, cleaned and brushed. His hair had been washed. It was darker than she had thought, almost black, and it fell to his collar. His face was still pale, but there was color in his lips again, and the tired shadows under his eyes had lifted. He looked like a different man. Not different in shape, different in weight. When she had seen him on the road, he had been a broken thing. Now, in that chair with the firelight on him, he sat like a man who had never asked another man's permission for anything in his life. Something small and cold moved in her stomach. He stood when she came in. He bowed. It was a slight bow, but it was precise. It was the kind of bow that had been taught by someone very careful. "Miss Marlowe." "Mr. Ash." He gestured to the second chair by the fire. She sat. She did not take off her coat. For a moment neither of them spoke. The fire crackled. Somewhere in the inn a door closed. She could smell the smoke of the fire and the good clean smell of the linen on the bed. Also the faint smell of shaving soap from him. He had shaved. His jaw was clean now, and the line of it was strong. "You look well," she said. "I feel well." "Almost. Master Hebbett has been very good. He is a kind man." "Yes, but there is a matter I must speak with you about, Miss Marlowe, and it is not a small one." He was looking at her steadily. She had the feeling she had once as a child. Standing on the edge of a stream that turned out to be much deeper than it looked. "Yes?" she said. He drew a slow breath. He set his hands on the arms of the chair. "My name is not Callum Ash." The room was very quiet. She looked at him. The firelight moved on his face. He did not look away. "It is not," she said. Her voice was steady. She was surprised by that. "It is Callum. The first part is true. But Ash is not the name of my family. Then what is?" He was quiet for another moment, as if he were trying to give her time. Then he said, "Callum Ashford. My full name is Callum Ashford. I am the Duke of Vane." She sat very still. The fire crackled. A log settled with a soft thump. She could feel her heart in her throat, in her ears. She could feel the wooden arms of the chair under her hands. She could smell the smoke and the shaving soap and the winter air still clinging to her coat. A duke. The Duke of Vane. She knew the name. Everyone in the North Country knew the name. Vane was the great estate 2 counties east. The Duke was said to be young, only lately come into his title, and cold, and hard, and cruel with money, and rarely seen in society. There were stories. She had wrapped him in her shawl. She had spooned broth into his mouth. She had told him her aunt did not like him. She had called him Mr. Ash. She had told him not to say thank you. She stood up. She did not know why she stood. Her body simply did it. She walked to the small window and looked out at the yard. She held her hands together in front of her because they had started to shake and she did not want him to see. "Miss Marlowe," he said behind her. Quietly, she did not turn. "Miss Marlowe, please, you lied to me. Yes, you lay in my bed, you drank my broth, you let me feed you like a child, and you lied to me." "Yes." She turned then. Her face was hot. Her voice was not loud, but it was hard. "Why, may I explain?" "You had better." He nodded once. He did not stand up. He seemed to know that if he stood up she might leave. "I came north from Vane on business," he said. "There is a piece of land in this county that has come into my family. It was my grandfather's, and then it was left to my uncle, and my uncle has just died, and it has come to me. There is a house on it, a small manor, not grand. It has been empty for many years." She said nothing. She waited. "There is also," he said, "a young woman my family has long expected me to marry. Her name is Lady Sabra Chesford. Her father's estate borders the piece of land I have just come into. Our families made an arrangement many years ago, when we were both children. Neither of us was consulted." Vivienne felt her stomach turn a little further. "I have never met her properly," Callum said. "I have seen her twice. Once when we were both 12, once at a dinner in London 3 years ago. She was surrounded by people. We spoke perhaps 4 sentences. And I have been lied to before. About people. about what they are like when no one important is watching. I trust few faces I have not seen in private. He was looking at his hands. His voice was low. I decided, he said, that before I came to this county in my own name, I would come first as a common traveller. I would see the land, I would see the house, and I would see, if I could, the woman I was expected to marry. Not as she wished to be seen. As she was, when she did not know a duke was watching. And so you came in a fine coat and worn boots, Vivienne said. Her voice was still hard. I did. And you got caught on the road in the cold. I did. And I was not the woman you were meant to see. No, he said. His eyes came up to hers. You were not. She stood at the window. She held her hands hard together. Say the rest of it, she said. There is more. I heard you say there was. He drew another slow breath. When you came out of that cottage this morning of the 5th day of my ride north, you were not part of my plan. You were not a person I was looking for. I lay on that road, and I thought I was going to die, and then a woman I had never seen bent over me and gave me the only warm thing she owned, and she never once asked if I could pay for it. The room was very quiet. You said your name was Vivienne Marlowe, he said. I lay in your bed for a night, wrapped in your shawl, and I heard your aunt through the wall, and I understood something of your life. I heard the words she used with you. Then I saw your face in the morning when you thought I was still asleep, and I decided something. What did you decide? Vivienne said. Her voice was almost a whisper. I decided that the woman I had come north to see could wait, that I did not owe her a meeting yet, that my first duty was to the woman who had put her own shawl around a stranger on a road. That is not a duty, she said. You did not owe me anything. You are wrong, he said. It is a debt, Miss Marlowe. I do not pretend otherwise. I did not save your life for a debt. I know. Then do not make it one. She saw a small muscle move in his jaw. He nodded. Then let me say it differently. I have decided I would like to know you. Not because I owe you, because I would like to. She turned back to the window. She did not want him to see her face just then. Out in the yard, a boy was leading a horse across the cobbles. The wind pulled at the boy's hair. Somewhere a bell rang, thin and far away. You lied to me, she said. Yes, you could have told me the truth in the morning. When I gave you the broth. When you asked my name. I could have. You did not. I did not. I was afraid. Of what? Of what would happen to you when it was known that I had lain in your bed? She turned. She had not thought of that. She saw at once that he had. That he had thought of it before she had. I did not think of my name being on you, he said. Not out of pride, out of understanding. A dukedom is a heavy thing to press on a woman in a small village who has done nothing but be kind. I did not know what your aunt would do with it. What the village would do. I meant to leave before it was needed. To send you a letter later, from Vane. With money enough that no one could ask you difficult questions. That was my plan. That was your plan for me, she said flatly. Yes, you would have paid me for the shawl. Yes, and gone. Yes, and I would never have known who slept in my bed. You would not have. She looked at him. She could feel her face was hot. Her throat hurt. Then why, she said. Why tell me now? Why not do what you meant to do? He was silent a long moment. Because I sat in this chair for 3 days, he said, and I could not stop thinking about the way you spoke to your aunt when you thought I was still asleep, about the fact that you fed me broth and never once asked what I could give you back, about the shawl. It was the last good thing your mother made, was it not? I have eyes, Miss Marlowe. I saw the stitches. I saw the small mended place, and you gave it away in a moment, without a pause. To a stranger. She turned her face away. She did not want him to see. And I understood, he said quietly, that if I left this county without telling you who I was, I would spend the rest of my life knowing I had used a kindness. And I would be a smaller man for it. She did not speak. So I am telling you, he said. You may be angry. You have the right. But I would rather be told I am a fool by you honestly than call you Miss Marlowe in a letter dishonestly from 2 counties away. She was crying now. She did not want to be. She wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. Damn you, she said, very softly. I know. Damn you and your fine coat and your worn boots and your calabash. I know. You should have told me. Yes, you should have told me when you woke. Yes, I called you Mr. Ash. You did. I told you not to say thank you. You did. I told you my aunt would not have you under her roof. You did. She began to laugh. It was not a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes when a person does not know what else to do. She sat down in the chair again with her hands over her face. She laughed, and then she was crying again, and then she was laughing. He waited. When she took her hands away, he was looking at her, and his face was more open than she had seen it before. It was not the face of a man who ruled anything. It was the face of a man who had just told a truth he did not have to tell. I would like, he said carefully, to still know you, Miss Marlowe, if you can bear it. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Whenever you can bear it. I will wait. You are the Duke of Vane, she said. You will not wait. I have waited 3 days in this room for you to walk up those stairs, he said. I can wait longer. She looked at him. She stood up. She smoothed her skirt. She was very tired. I do not know what to say to you, she said. You do not have to say anything today. I have to go home. Yes, I have to think. Yes, she walked to the door. She stopped with her hand on the latch. She did not turn. You may keep the shawl, she said, until I can bear to see you again. That is fair. She opened the door. Miss Marlowe. She stopped. If your aunt makes trouble for you because of this, will you tell me? I would prefer not to have to hear it from someone else. She did not answer. She went out. She went down the stairs. Master Hebbett was in the front room. He did not speak. She did not look at him. She went out into the cold, and she walked home with her arms tight around her chest, and she did not remember the walk. She only remembered arriving at the cottage door and standing outside it a long time because she was not ready to go in. Her aunt was waiting. Well? Aunt Peveril said. What did the man want? He wanted to thank me. That is all? That is all, Vivienne said. She could not tell her aunt. Not yet. Not until she had thought. Aunt Peveril watched her with narrow eyes. Then she said, You are a foolish girl, Vivienne. Foolish and soft. It will cost you one day. Vivienne looked at her aunt. She said nothing. She walked past her into the small back room. She closed the door. She sat on the bed where he had lain. The shawl was not there. The bed was bare. The room smelled faintly of him still, of shaving soap and of rain. And she pressed her face into the pillow and cried until she was empty. 2 days passed. She did not go to the inn. On the second evening, Master Hebbett came himself. He would not come inside. He stood in the yard with his hat in his hands and asked to speak with Miss Marlowe. Aunt Peveril came to the door with a face like a shut window. You have business with my niece? I have a message for her, Mrs., from the gentleman upstairs. Aunt Peveril's mouth got very small. Vivienne came out. She was wearing her coat and no shawl. She was cold. She had been cold for 2 days. Master Hebbett stepped a little away from the door so that Aunt Peveril could not hear him without leaning. He asked me to give you this, he said. He held out a small folded paper. She took it. She did not open it in the yard. Thank you, Master Hebbett. Miss Marlowe. His face was gentle. He has told me who he is. She looked at him. I thought you should know that I know, in case you needed a friend, and did not know who to trust. Her throat closed a little. Thank you. He is a serious man, Master Hebbett said carefully. He is not what the stories in London say, I think. Or he is not only that, he has been kind to my boy. My boy fetches him things and he speaks to him like a man, not like a servant. Your boy. Peter. He is 11. He is small for his age. Mr. Ash, the gentleman, he asked Peter what he wanted to be when he was grown. Peter said he wanted to read books. And the gentleman gave him a shilling and said Peter must buy a book. Not any book. The book of his choosing. Master Hebbett paused. Peter has never had a book of his own. Vivienne looked at her hands. He did not tell me to tell you this, Master Hebbett said. I do not think he means for anyone to know, but it seems worth knowing. It is, she said quietly. Thank you. She went into the cottage. She waited until she was in her small back room. Then she opened the paper. It said only, in his slanted, strong writing, Miss Marlowe. I have taken a small house at the end of the North Lane. I will remain in Barrowford for some weeks. I do not ask you to come. But if you wish to walk in the North Lane, in the afternoon on any day, I will be there. C. He had signed it only C. He had not signed it Duke of Vane. She read it 4 times. She folded it and put it in the drawer of the little table by her bed. She sat looking at nothing for a long time. She did not go to the North Lane the next day, or the day after. On the 3rd day, she went. The lane was narrow and lined with old thorn hedges. The sky was a pale washed blue. The ground was hard with frost. She could smell wood smoke somewhere ahead, and the sharp cold smell of frost on old grass. Her breath was thin white. The small house at the end of the lane was low and grey, and had smoke rising from its single chimney. It was the manor he had mentioned, she guessed, the one his uncle had left him. It looked half asleep. But there was a lamp lit in the front window, and the door stood open a little, as if he had been listening for her step. He was standing in the doorway when she came up the path. He was in a plain, dark coat, no fine wool. He wore a common man's boots. He had left off the trappings of who he was. He was still Callum Ashford, still Duke of Vane, but he had not dressed to remind her of it. Miss Marlowe. Mr. Ashford. You may call me Callum now if you like. I do not. Then Mr. Ashford it is. He stepped aside. Will you come in? There is a fire. I have tea. She hesitated. Then she came in. The house was small inside, a single front room with a fire, 2 chairs, a table, a low bookshelf, a door that led to the kitchen, stairs to what she guessed was 1 bedroom above. It smelled of wood smoke and old paper, not a duke's house, a tired, quiet house that was being lived in again. He poured her tea. His hands were steady, hers were not, and so she kept them in her lap. They sat by the fire. How is your aunt? He asked. Sharp. Has she troubled you? No more than usual. Does she know? No. He nodded. He did not press. She looked at the fire. She said, I would like to ask you a question. Of course. When you were on the road, that last afternoon, before I came, what were you thinking about? He was quiet a moment. I was thinking, he said slowly, that I had made a mistake, that I had come too far in weather that was too cold, that the horse I had traded for at the last posting house had gone lame and I had had to walk, that I was more tired than I had understood. And then I stopped thinking altogether. I remember only the wall, and lying down beside it, and thinking I would rest for a moment. And I remember the smell of lavender before I remember anything else, and then a hand on my shoulder, and a voice saying, Sir, and calling me Sir again. She looked at her hands. I remember the shawl before I remember your face, he said. I remember thinking, someone has put a shawl on me. I did not know shawls had that smell. It is only cedar, she said, from the trunk. I know it is only cedar. I know it is only wool. I am telling you what I remember. She was quiet. May I ask a question in return, he said. You may. Why did you give it to me? I have told you. Anyone would have. Miss Marlowe. She looked up. No one would have, he said. Softly, not a challenge. A truth. I have lain on cold roads before. I have seen many people pass a man who might be dead. You did not pass. You knelt in the wet grass with a good winter shawl and you gave it away, to a man you had never seen. Why? She thought a long time. Because I had it, she said at last. And you did not. He looked at her. It seemed simple, she said. It seems less simple now. But at the time it was simple. You were cold. I was less cold. So I gave you the shawl. He did not speak for a while. Then he said, That is the answer of a good person. I am not a good person. I am only what I am. Then good people are only what they are, Miss Marlowe. And that is enough. She looked at him. She had not meant to look. But she looked. And he was looking at her too, and neither of them looked away. The fire crackled. A piece of wood settled. Somewhere outside a bird called once, and did not call again. She could smell the wood smoke and the tea and the faint smell of him, that clean shaving soap smell, and something underneath it that she could not name. She could feel the heat of the fire on one side of her face. She could feel the cold air coming in under the door on her feet. She could hear her own heartbeat behind her ears. She looked away first, because she had to. "I should go," she said. "Yes," Aunt Peveril will ask. Yes, he stood when she stood. He walked her to the door. He did not touch her. He opened the door for her, and she stepped out into the cold lane, and she said, "Good day, Mr. Ashford." "Good day, Miss Marlowe." She walked home. She was not smiling, but she was warmer than she had been in days. She went back to the small house 4 times over the next 2 weeks. Not often. Not every day. She did not want anyone to see her walking to the north lane too often. She did not tell her aunt. She told herself it was because she had not decided anything. She did not know if that was true. Each visit was short. He never kept her long. He never touched her. He gave her tea. He asked questions. He listened when she answered. He listened in a way that was uncommon, as if he was actually gathering what she said instead of waiting to reply. He told her about Vane, when she asked. Not the grandness, the bother. The way the roof of the old wing had leaked for 6 years, and how his father had never fixed it. The way there were tenants who owed rent for so long that he did not know how to ask without shaming them. The way he had spent his first 6 months as Duke sitting at a desk and looking at columns of numbers and feeling like a boy playing at a man's work. "I am not what I look like," he said once. "I look like a man who knows what he is doing. I am often a man who is guessing." "Everyone is guessing," she said. "Yes, but some pretend better." She told him about Barrowford, about her father who had been a curate and who had loved books, and who had left her 3 of them when he died, about her mother who had died first of a bad winter, about her aunt who had taken her in with more duty than love, about the small work she did for the village women, mending, sometimes writing letters for those who could not, for a few pennies here and there, about the fact that she did not know what her life would look like at 40 and had stopped trying to imagine it. He listened. He did not offer to fix her life, she noticed that. He did not say, "Come to Vane." He did not say, "I will settle money on you." He did not offer her rescue. He only listened. Once, near the end of the 2nd week, she asked him about Lady Sabra Chesford. "Have you called on her yet?" "No. You said you came north to see her." "Yes, and?" He set down his tea. "I have written to her," he said. "I have told her that the arrangement between our families is one I no longer intend to honor. I have told her that this is a matter of my own choosing, and no reflection on her worth. I have offered to make what settlement is proper, in coin and in reputation, to see that no shame falls on her house." Vivienne stared at him. "You did that?" "Yes, when the morning after I told you who I was. You did not tell me. It was not something to tell you. It was something to do." She looked down. She could not speak for a moment. "You did not do that for me," she said. "You did not." "No," he said. "I did it because I could not marry a woman I had already decided not to marry. I did it because I refused to owe another human being a wedding I did not mean. Whether or not you ever came to the North Lane, I would have done it. That was mine, not yours." She let out a breath. "But I will tell you also," he said, "that I did it more quickly than I might have. Because the thought of doing it slowly, while I sat in this house drinking tea across from you, felt indecent to me." She could not look at him. She was afraid of what her face would show. Toward the end of the 3rd week, everything broke. It was a Sunday. Vivienne had come home from church. Her aunt was already at the cottage, and she was not alone. A woman was with her. A large woman in an old bonnet and a green shawl, with a face that looked always as if it had just heard a piece of gossip and was waiting to tell it. Mistress Yvette, the worst of the village women and Aunt Peveril's oldest friend. They both looked up when Vivienne came in. "There she is," Mistress Yvette said. "There she is, the girl who has been keeping company with a gentleman in the North Lane. Alone, in a house, without a chaperone." Vivienne felt the room go small. "Aunt," she said. "Do not aunt me, girl," Aunt Peveril said. Her voice was low and terrible. Mistress Yvette has told me things I did not wish to hear on a Sunday. She has told me you were seen at the door of that small manor, that you went in, that you were inside for an hour, that this happened 4 times. 5, Vivienne said. She did not know why she said it. She said it because she would not lie in her own kitchen. 5. Aunt Peveril drew a slow breath through her nose. 5 times, my niece has gone into a private house with a strange man, alone, my niece, under my roof, with my name on her. He is not a strange man to me. He is a stranger to this village. He is a stranger to me. He came here from nowhere. He was found dying on the road. He gave a false name at the inn. Yes, girl, Master Hebert has said as much when pressed. And you have been going to his house, alone, without a word to me. Vivienne set her prayer book down on the table. Her hands were steady. She was surprised by that. He is not a strange man, she said again. His name is Callum Ashford. He is the Duke of Vane. The kitchen went very still. Mistress Yvette's mouth fell open. Aunt Peveril did not move at all. He is what? Aunt Peveril said. The Duke of Vane. He came to the county on private business. He was disguised. He was on the road when I found him. He was ill. That is all. A duke. Yes, in our village. Yes, in your bed. For 1 night. When he was unconscious. Yes, Mistress Yvette made a sound like a kettle that had just begun to boil. Then Aunt Peveril did something that Vivienne had not expected. She began to laugh. It was a small, dry laugh, not a happy one. Well, she said. Well then, that changes everything. Aunt, a duke, Vivienne, a duke, in our own poor cottage. A duke who was fed by your hand. A duke whose face has been in the same room as your face for hours at a time. He has behaved perfectly properly. That does not matter now, girl. The village has already seen. Mistress Yvette has already spoken. It cannot be undone. Her aunt's eyes were bright and sharp. But it does not have to be a shame. It can be a triumph, if we handle it well. A duke, Vivienne. Do you understand what this can mean for us? For us, for our house, for our name, for what little there is of both. A duke does not walk into a village and sit in a small house with a girl for weeks without meaning something. And if he has not yet said what he means, we may have to help him along. Help him along, Vivienne repeated. There is more than one way to make a proper thing of an improper situation, Aunt Peveril said. I will speak with Master Hebert. I will speak with the parson. I will speak with him. There is no need to be frightened. Aunt. Vivienne's voice was quiet. She could feel a slow, cold thing rising in her chest. You will not. I will. You will not. I have not been improper. He has not been improper. There is nothing to speak of. There is everything to speak of. Girl, do you know what is said in the village already, this very hour? Aunt Peveril leaned forward. Her voice was sharper than a needle. It is said, in the mouths of every woman between here and the mill, that you have shamed this house for a stranger. That is what is said. That is what is said of your mother's name. Girl, and I did not raise you in this house for 6 years, feeding you, clothing you, sheltering you when your father left you with nothing, to have my dead sister's name spoken in that tone at the well. The words landed like a slap, because that was the worst of it. That was the specific and unforgettable cruelty. Because it took the mother Vivienne had loved, and it took the shawl Vivienne had given, and it made both of them a stain. Vivienne stood there in the kitchen. She did not answer at once. She could feel her breath in her nose and her mouth. She could smell the cold ashes in the hearth from the morning fire. She could hear the tick of the small clock on the shelf. She could hear Mistress Yvette breathing through her mouth. You will not speak my mother's name in that tone again, Vivienne said quietly. Aunt Peveril's face changed. Do not use that voice with me. You will not speak my mother's name in that tone again, Vivienne said again. The same words, the same quiet voice. She turned. She walked to the small back room. She took her thin coat. She took the 3 books her father had left her. She put them in a cloth bundle. She took her comb and her second dress. She put those in too. She came back out with the bundle under her arm. Where are you going? Aunt Peveril said. Her voice had gone up in pitch. She had understood, a moment too late, that the thing she had said had cost her more than she meant it to. To Master Hebbets. Tonight, he will give me a room in exchange for work. Tomorrow, I will decide what next. You will not. I will. Girl, you cannot walk out of this house. I am walking out of this house. After all I have done for you. Vivienne stopped at the door. She looked at her aunt. You have done what duty asked of you, she said. I have done my part in return. We are even. I will not stay under a roof where my mother is called a stain. She opened the door. Vivienne, she did not turn back. She walked out into the road. It was cold, and it had begun to snow lightly, small dry flakes that caught in her hair and on her sleeves. She walked toward the village. She held her bundle tight under her arm. She did not go to Master Hebbets. She walked past the inn. She walked to the north lane. She walked to the small grey house at its end. He opened the door before she could knock. He had been watching the lane. He had known, somehow, that today would be the day something moved. He did not say anything. He looked at her. He looked at the bundle. He looked at her thin coat, dusted with snow, and the way her shoulders were set. He stepped aside. Come in, he said. She came in. She stood by the fire. She was shaking, and it was not from cold, and she was not going to explain. He did not ask. He took her bundle and set it on the table. He took her coat and hung it on the peg by the door. He went into the kitchen. He came back with a cup of tea. He put it in her hands. He guided her hands closed around it. Drink, he said. She drank. He sat down across from her. He did not speak for a long time. He waited. At last she said she spoke of my mother. I heard the words. How? Not the words. The kind of words. I have known such women. I am sorry. Vivienne looked at the fire. I could not stay, she said. No, I do not know what I have done. You have done a hard right thing, he said. Those are not the same as easy right things. She looked at him. You cannot stay in this house tonight, he said. You know that. I know. Master Hebbet has an attic room. It is clean. His wife will look after you. I have already spoken to him this morning, without knowing what would happen today. I paid him for the room for a month. In case. She stared at him. You paid him. I told him it might be needed. For a friend. If it was not needed, the coin would still be his. You knew. I did not know. I feared. It is not the same. But I thought, if you had to leave your aunt's house, for any reason, I did not want it to be a question of where you would sleep. She looked at him for a long time. You did that in secret, she said. Yes, you never told me. No, you were not going to. No, she set the cup down. She put her hand over her mouth. She did not cry. But she came close. Why did you do that, she said. He was quiet a moment. He looked down at his hands. Then he looked up at her. Because you gave a stranger a shawl, he said, and did not ask for anything in return. And I thought if I could give a room to a friend and not tell her about it, that it would be a way to be a slightly better man than I was the day I woke up in your bed. She looked at him. Her eyes were full. She did not answer. He walked her to the inn that night through the falling snow. He did not offer his arm. He walked beside her, with his hands in his pockets and his head bowed against the wind. Master Hebbet met them at the door. His wife took Vivienne up to the attic room, which was small and warm and had a red quilt on the bed and a lamp already burning. Callum did not come up. Before he left, in the yard, he said, Miss Marlowe. Mr. Ashford, I did not do this to buy you. I know. I did not do this so that you would owe me a debt. I know. If you wish to go to London tomorrow, or to your father's people, or to any place at all, I will see you there safely, and you will owe me nothing. I know. He nodded. He put on his hat. Callum, she said. He stopped. Thank you. His mouth moved. It was not quite a smile. Good night, Vivienne, he said. He walked back through the snow toward the north lane. She stayed at the inn for 3 weeks. The story of what had happened at her aunt's cottage went around the village in a day, and then around it again in a slightly different shape, and then a third time in a shape closer to the truth. Master Hebbet's wife told the truth wherever she went, and she went many places. The parson, a small old man with soft eyes, came and sat with Vivienne for an afternoon and asked her only 2 questions, and then said he was satisfied. Mistress Yvette stopped repeating the worst version when she found she had no listeners. Aunt Peveril did not come. Callum did not come to the inn either. Not once. He sent Master Hebbet's boy Peter with small useful things, a new pair of stockings, a lamp that did not smoke, a book she had said once she had wanted to read, but never with a note. She saw him only in the North Lane, once a week, on Wednesday afternoons. He asked her nothing about her plans. He waited for her to bring them up. At the end of the 3rd week, she brought them up. "I do not want to go to London," she said. They were sitting in the small front room again. The snow had melted and come back and melted again. It was the first day that had felt like the edge of spring, in the way winter days sometimes do before winter comes back. "No," he said. "No, I do not know London. I would be a fool in London. I have no wish to be a fool. You would not be a fool. I would. I do not know their ways. I would spend a year being laughed at. I do not have a year for that." He nodded slowly. "Then what?" "I want to teach," she said. "I want to teach girls to read. I can do that in a village. Any village. I would rather do it here, if the parson will let me use the room behind the church." He has said perhaps. He was watching her. "That is your plan?" "Yes. And what of me?" She was quiet for a long moment. "That is not a plan," she said. "That is a person. And I do not know what to do with a person yet." He nodded again. He looked at his hands. He said, "That is fair." "I did not save your life to marry you," she said. She had not meant to say it. She said it because it needed saying. "I did not know who you were. It would be strange if I had suddenly decided, when I found out, that I wanted a duke's house. Yes, I do not want a duke's house." "I know. I do not know if I want you either. Not because of you, because I do not know myself well enough to know. Yes, I have never chosen anything before, Callum. My father chose for me until he died. My aunt chose after that. This is the first thing that has been mine. I am not going to give it away for a title. I would not give me for a title either," he said quietly. "If I were you." She laughed. She did not mean to. It came out of her tired and thin. He smiled a little. "Then teach," he said, "in this village, if the parson permits. And I will remain in Barrowford as long as I decently can, and I will call on you once a week, and I will not ask you to decide anything until you know what you decide. That could be a year. It could be 2. She looked at him. "You would wait 2 years. "I told you I would wait longer than 3 days, he said. "I am a patient man, Vivian. I did not know I was until I met you. But it turns out I am." She looked at the fire. "Then that is what we will do," she said. "That is what we will do." He walked her back to the inn that afternoon. At the door of the Boar's Head he paused. He looked at her a long time. She looked back. The wind was cold, and the sun was low, and everything smelled of thawing earth and old snow. She could hear a bird somewhere in the eaves. He did not take her hand. He did not touch her. He only stood a moment longer than a man usually would. "Vivienne, yes, may I return your shawl?" She had almost forgotten she had told him to keep it. It had been 6 weeks. "Yes," she said. The next Wednesday, when she came to the small house in the lane, the grey shawl was folded on the chair by the fire. He said nothing about it. He poured her tea. They spoke of other things. The parson had said yes to the schoolroom. Peter Hebbet had chosen a book of stories about giants. Aunt Peveril had been seen at the market with a face like curdled milk. When she rose to leave, she picked up the shawl. She held it a moment. It smelled faintly of cedar still. Also, more faintly, of shaving soap. She put it around her shoulders. He watched her. "It suits you," he said quietly, "as it always did. You had it cleaned. I had it cleaned. But that is all. I did not change anything about it. No, it is your shawl." "Yes," she looked at him. "Callum, yes, thank you. You do not need to thank me. For the room, for the stockings, for the book, for the shilling to Peter Hebbet, for the book of his choosing, for not telling me about any of it." He did not answer at once. "Master Hebbet talks," he said finally. "He does. He is a good man. Do not blame him. I do not blame him. You did not want me to know about Peter. No, you have never mentioned it. No, why? He looked at her for a long time. Because I did it, he said, and that is the whole of it. I did it because Peter was a small boy who had never had a book, and I have had many books, and it seemed unfair. It had nothing to do with you. If I told you about it now, it would become about you, and I would rather it did not. She was quiet. You may keep doing that, she said softly. Doing what? Being the man you are when no one is watching. He looked at his hands. Vivienne, he said. Yes, I have not said anything to you these 6 weeks that I did not mean. I would like to say something now that I have meant since I woke up in your bed. If you will let me. She waited. You gave me your shawl, he said. You did not know me. You did not owe me. You had almost nothing, and you gave it away in a moment. That was the moment I understood something about the world I had not understood before. I had spent my whole life among people who calculated what they gave. Every gift a payment for a future gift. Every kindness a coin set down on a table to be picked up later. And then a girl on a road wrapped a stranger in the last good thing she owned and asked for nothing at all. I was not the same after that. I will not be the same again. Whatever you decide about me, that is what you did to me, on that road. I wanted you to know. She could not speak. She reached out. She took his hand. It was the first time she had touched him since she had rubbed his cold fingers between her hands on the road. His hand closed around hers slowly, carefully, as if he did not want to press too hard. Neither of them spoke. Outside, the wind moved the bare branches of the thorn hedge along the lane. Somewhere far off, a dog barked once and stopped. The fire in the small grate crackled quietly. The room smelled of wood smoke and cedar and shaving soap and tea that was going cold in 2 cups on the table. She did not pull her hand away. Neither of them said anything for a long time. When she left that day, he walked her to the end of the lane. He held her hand. She did not take it back. At the crossroads before the village came into sight, she stopped and turned to him. I have not decided anything yet, she said. I know. But I would like to walk here again next Wednesday. I know. Do you? She smiled a little. It was a small, tired smile, but it was hers. I know, he said again, softly. She let go of his hand. She walked on into the village. She did not turn to look back, though she could feel him standing at the crossroads until she was out of sight. She would come back. She would come back next Wednesday, and the Wednesday after that, and the Wednesday after that. In the spring she would open the room behind the church, and she would teach 7 girls to read, and by summer it would be 12. In the autumn she would walk in the North Lane on more days than Wednesday, and by the first snow of the next winter she would know what she had decided, and so would he. But that was later. For now she walked home in the cold with a grey shawl around her shoulders, and a hand still warm from another's hand, and she thought, quietly, that some kindnesses are given for nothing, and are paid back for the whole of a life, and that this is not a debt, but a way of living.